Alright, what's up y'all? Tim Ream here. I'm on day 25 of 75 hard. I'm going to be doing my first 45-minute workout today is going to be on quads. It's a pretty short routine, so I'm going to add some other stuff in there. I'm going to end up putting calves at the end of the routine. I'm a superset it with forearms. Yeah, I'm just going to get right into it. Yeah, we'll start out with leg extensions. I'm going to do some warm-ups just to get my knees and everything warmed up. That's kind of a weak link in my chain. I've had a back surgery and kind of throws your entire gait off, so kind of working around knee stuff and trying to get back in the game as far as my legs go. But yeah, we're going to start out with leg extensions, kind of pre-exhaust those quads for the squats, and then bounce back to them. But yeah, you'll see. All right, man.
One of the most popular fitness programs in the history of fitness or mental health,
in the history of the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've had a top-rated podcast for nearly a decade. I've done some incredible things, but dude, the only reason I've been able to do those things, I believe, because I'm a normal human, dude. Like, I'm pretty much just like anybody out there, like exactly the same. It's because I think the universe helps me because I try to do the right things. And so I think that's why it makes it the most valuable lesson, that I ever learned, because I think it serves me the most and it serves everybody else the most too.
I've actually had off a couple days. It's probably been about a week since I did quads. I was going to do them yesterday, but my hamstrings are still sore from a few days ago, so I can still feel them. I don't really do anything too different from what I'm used to with hamstrings. I'm not sure why they're as sore as they are for as long as they are, but it is what it is, man.
What they mean to us, but in reality,
I did do it last hamstring workout before I did here at the house, so I was using like free weights versus like a Smith machine on a couple of those exercises, so that might be it.
And I've experienced that as
just
well.
The weight variations, I guess, probably from machine to machine, I'd say.
You see the ways in which you operate it differently. You have journal entries. Dude, what's your, how do you keep a journal? What is your journal? How do you document moments? Is it the podcast?
Yeah, I would say the podcast is
pretty. Man.
I don't actually journal. A lot of people journal. I don't pull out a piece of paper and write.
And it's kind of messed up with my back surgery, dude. So it takes mobility out of the spine. So just to bend over and pick stuff up, I've got to swing out my leg. And to give myself extra range of motion, so my hip and my leg and my knee have been kind of put in unnatural ranges of mobility, so it's kind of thrown off. Like, it's weird, like one thing about your body gets hurt or get an injury and it'll throw off like a bunch of other stuff too, so it's like I've really had a hard time getting my legs back underneath me after this surgery and the recovery period and all that stuff. Dude, I used to have super massive quads. Like, I used to ride bikes, like sprint and run, and now, like, if I'm running or doing any sort of cardio at all on a bike, like, my knees hurt after like 20 minutes. And if I do that for consecutive days, it's just like, dude, it'll wreck you, man. So I'm having to really be cautious and choosy over which workouts and making sure I'm getting enough warm-up sets and making sure it's not too frequently just to build my legs back up. I've got a lot of work to do on them still, but I don't know what else to do, really. I'm pretty sure if you build up the hamstrings, it'll help with the front portion of, like, it'll help with your knee. And if you walk backwards, like, I'm still experimenting with different ways to try to build up all those tendons and ligaments and muscles around the knee. So it's not just a floating mass in there amongst, whatever, but yeah. So making sure I warm up on these exercises here, especially for legs, is like super important. I've actually almost taken the squats out of the routine just because they're so knee intensive.
Has helped me become a better communicator. Is like, and this really sucks for me to do because I don't like my own voice. I don't like hearing. Like, I'm just
if you guys know any ways to strengthen the knees or any different exercises or from experience that have helped you guys let me know in the comments. Not many people are even watching these videos, so you might not even see this, but
I don't like listening to myself. But what I did was I did go back and listen to a lot of the things that I did in MFCEO, and I just had an objective viewpoint of, you know, okay, well, if I was listening to this person and I didn't know who this was, how would I suggest them to get better? And I started trying to implement those things. You know, if you listen now versus then, I curse a lot less now than I did. You know, I do try to, instead of just saying, this is the way it is, I try to say, this is the way I think it is, and there could be this and this, but this is the way it appears to be. You know, more nuance with my speaking, things like that. And then also, real talk, just listening, man. You know, just learning how to be a listener and not always a talker. That's helped a lot too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The funny thing about what you said is you didn't mention 75 hard.
Yeah, one cool thing about legs is like I actually used to do like 2 leg workouts per workout. So if I was doing chest, I'd still throw in like a leg press and maybe like, you know, leg curl. Next day I'd be doing arms, but I'd still do like 2 like just minor you know, leg workouts. And then I'd even have like a leg day. And actually it's kind of crazy, but my legs got super big whenever I did that. Like the volume aspect I feel like did help. But the thing about your legs is if you're engaging your legs with workouts, especially in like compound movements, and you're actually releasing testosterone. It's like a natural, I don't know exactly how it works or why, but like whenever your legs get activated in workouts, it releases testosterone into your system. So skipping leg day actually isn't a good idea, just because also there's that testosterone aspect about it too. So it's kind of a double negative if you're actually skipping leg day.
You were putting an image of yourself in front of the world. Yeah. And
not just because of the leg aspect, but because of the testosterone release that you get from it. I'm sure it's just because that's how your body naturally works. You know, you're running, you're going to be lifting, you're going to be pushing, and that's where all the, I don't know, chemical spikes and all that stuff come from, I'd say. I don't know exactly why, but I'd say that's probably it. Just a natural evolution type thing.
Yeah, dude, that actually was one of the main reasons I started getting HIIT together.
Put a little bit of weight on here. Start working our way up. Still going to do probably 4 or 5 warm-up sets here.
You're full of shit. And it took me about a year to really, like, make the decision to actually go through and change. I was like everybody else, dude. I would go out, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the whole time I would justify saying, on Monday, it's going to get real. On Monday, I'm going to start. And I would do that just like everybody else does. And then I would get Monday, Tuesday, and by Wednesday, I was so focused on what I was missing out on that I started to drive this narrative in my brain. Like, oh, I can't eat pizza. By Wednesday, I drove myself crazy because I kept telling myself, oh, you can't eat pizza, you can't eat pizza. Then all of a sudden, I'm off the fucking rails again for the next 4 days. And that's how I live my life. And I think a lot of people live their lives like that. And I think that, you know, understanding how to reel things in and build self-control through forced discipline in the beginning, I think that's, you know, that's probably the second best lesson. You guys, what the first one was, the mountain berry, but the second best one is definitely.
The thing about this movement too is like I feel like I've got one leg that's more activated than the other since I'm doing a double. It's kind of weird too because the machine, like the arm, is tilted a little bit, so I feel like it lands more on my left leg, and that's actually more of the leg that's driving a lot of the weight there.
I don't really.
So.
Like I know I'm a human. Like I guess the answer is I know I'm a
one leg's obviously going to get stronger than the other. So to balance them out, like at the end of the workout, I do those singles just to make sure it's kind of even across each side of my body.
I make the decision that like when I get criticized or when someone doesn't really vibe with how I say things or this, I don't take it personal because I'm like, well, fuck.
This guy talking is Andy Frisella. And this interview that he's in, he brought up the concept of you can change your life in 1,000 days. And like for some reason it struck a chord with me. So since he said that, it was like New Year's whenever he said it, of 2024, I've latched onto it. I've really gotten clear on my goals, broke them down into like you know, those bite-sized manageable chunks into what needs to happen on a monthly and daily basis. And once I got clear, then I'm just going to drive home those things for the next 1,000 days, because I know it's true. You know, what's that, like about 3 years, 1,000 days. So I know your life it won't even look the same. If you keep on that path, your life won't even look different. Hell, even after a year. But the change your life in 1,000 days concept, dude, just like really trying to bring that vision that I have for my life into reality, you know. So
we're going to try to get better. And I think that if the whole world thought like that, we'd have a much cooler world we live in. You know, much more comfortable with ourselves, much less anxiety or worry or creative. Like, one of the things that social media has created is this like mentality where people think that people are creating narratives about them in their head, or like, you know, always talking about it. Dude, everybody's so busy, no one's talking about you, man. Like, real talk. And the ones that are, the only reason they're talking about it is because you're doing something cool.
Yes.
Okay, so like, having people talk about you is actually a badge of honor because it means you're relevant. You know, I don't know, man. Like, that's a really great question. I just think I try to keep it real, dude. I think people benefit from it. You know, like dude, I see some of the other, you know, entrepreneur influencers, and you know, they'll talk like, you know, I'm super.
Okay, knees are feeling pretty good.
27 hours out of 24.
Bump up weight a little bit.
Grind. And I'm like,
We'll count that as like one serious warm-up set. So we'll go for all like, you know, one, maybe two more, and then get into that heavy sets of failure.
Build themselves up to have strengths and powers, which, by the way, they don't actually have, right? It's just about ego thing. And then the people who are trying,
I don't like usually doing a calf day on a leg day. So I feel like I've already exhausted my quads, and I'll get up there in the like standing position to do them, and I feel like my knees are shaking, dude. It's like, so we're gonna see how this one goes. I usually don't put them in there, but I'm going to, just to make sure this reaches 45 minutes. If I got to do more seated calf raises versus standing, then I'll do that, I guess. Now that I'm just thinking out loud.
There's things about me that like are not worth being examples.
Yeah, I like saving those on a day that's more upper body.
That great of an example, but I also tell the truth about it. I don't hide it. I don't say, hey, don't do that. But I also tell people, like, you know what? I didn't really start that until I had already built all the shit that I built. You know what I mean? Like, I just tell the truth, man. I try to serve through the experiences I have that either serve me or hurt me, because my ultimate goal is to make the people who are listening to me better and more aware, so they can more effectively navigate their lives. And that's my whole mission. So
you've done that with me.
Well, thank you. Yeah. You know, that means a lot to me. Because a lot of times, right, like, I don't really go anywhere outside of, I mean, that's why you're here. You know? Like, I don't go anywhere outside of this building or home, and I just live my life and do my thing. So, like, sometimes I forget, you know, that this stuff doesn't matter.
And they're numbers on the street until somebody looks you in your eyes and says, dude, you changed my life.
Not just that, bro. You get on the platform all the way up to the top. You interview me.
Okay, now that I feel like I'm fully warmed, I'm going to be really cautious about how much time lapses in between sets. I'm going to try to collapse that time and bring that intensity factor in, more intense. Because I'm going to do the pre-exhaustion on the leg extensions, then hop over pretty much immediately to the squats and start doing those, just to drive that burn factor home. And so I get the pump, keep it, drive it home for a set to failure, and then hop over to the squats. I'm going to wait a little bit of time in between, but I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go before they're, you know, totally cooled down and all that stuff. So I'm going to start hopping from one workout to the next in pretty rapid succession here.
He studied for 75 hard that there is. That's awesome. Because he went from having a good business, but then having a massive business. That's awesome. And he credits 75 hard to that. So what does it feel like to be a role model for so many young men who previously didn't have that discipline and didn't have the drive to do what they needed to do, even when it was difficult?
disciplined when I do it, so it feels good. You know
May even pick up, after I do squats, I'm going to come back over to the leg extension. I may start doing some drop sets, starting with my max again. Do a couple drop sets just to exhaust as much as I can all the way down. So we'll see how it goes. See how I'm feeling after the set on these squats. Alright, so I'm going to take this into complete failure here. This isn't a set. This is the set that's going to trigger growth.
Right around us as individuals, who we spend our time with, what food we consume, how we move, the information we consume, okay, a number of other things, right? But those few things actually create the vast majority of our reality. And the world doesn't want to allow us to understand that, because the world wants us to be weak, it wants us to be out of shape, it wants us to be sick, it wants us to be dependent on them as much as possible. So they don't ever teach us as individuals that we are actually in control, not in control of the weather. No, we can't control the weather. But that's also why, part of the program, guess what you gotta do? You gotta get out in the fucking weather when it sucks and do your shit. Alright? Because we can't control our environment, but we can at the same time. So it's a paradox in terms of how we think about it. And the real scenario is that, dude, we are in control of, upper 90% of the whole reality. We're just giving them the tools necessary for them to discover that, and I do it for free. And bro, yeah, it makes me feel good. But I do it for that. I don't need the recognition. I don't need the, I don't, bro, if it were up to me, I'd be living in the fucking woods, bro. It makes me feel great, and that's what we should
Record that max here.
We should be showing people through our examples how to live a high standard quality life in all areas. And we look around in society and we wonder why society is so fucked up. Well, we don't have enough people doing what Georgia's done, right? Where they've woken up and they've said, well, fuck this, and I'm in control of most of my stuff, and I'm gonna handle it. And then all of a sudden when they, dude, that's why I talk about it in terms of building confidence, because so many people lack confidence. When you discover, this goes back to the question you asked earlier, when you discover how powerful you really are.
Yeah, I can actually tell after that week off I took, I can tell I came back in here stronger.
It gives them an understanding that I
go over here to the squats.
And the superior enlightenment level of live hard and 75 hard is realizing that even when you're out of control, all you have to do is recognize that you're out of control, and you can get right back in control very quickly. And so you actually learn to self-audit your direction and control your life. And dude, it's powerful stuff. And a lot of people, this is why I get so pissed off. People are like, oh, it's for fucking weight loss, or it's a fitness challenge. Dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's a mental realignment on how to truly navigate and win.
When you fall down, which you inevitably will, how fast you can get back up is determining your life. And when you go from, there have been periods in my life when one bad thing happened and I let that control my reality for a year.
Yeah.
And then there have been periods in my life when one bad thing happens and I am better in that moment.
Yes.
And the time between the bad thing happening and how quickly you can get back on the right path, that is what life is all about.
Bro, what you just described is what we're doing is we're literally shortening, because dude, time is our most valued resource. It's not money, it's not energy, it's fucking time. Okay, we have a finite amount of time. And if you can close the time window from the time the mistake happens or the off track happens to getting back on track, dude, you're 5 years ahead of everybody else, because most people will stay in that low spot because they're given permission. Look at the society we live in, dude. The society that we live in values and promotes and encourages mental health issues and self-victimhood. If you go on the internet and you look at the posts that get the most fucking likes and the most comments, these are posts of somebody's fucking sad story. But the reality is 90 fucking times, and I'm not saying that some of these things aren't valid, because they are. There's a lot of people out there struggling right now. So don't get it twisted. But 90% of those times, you could flip the picture right over to what it's like to live in a third
One of the reasons I waited so long in between my last squad workout was, for one, I've had a bunch of shit going on. Had bills to pay, all that shit, so I've had to put more focus on work. But also it's just because I feel like it's so knee intensive. I'm kind of dreading getting in here to do it. So I feel like I'm compromising joint health for big quads, which ain't a good trade-off. But also as you get older, first thing that goes is your legs. Now, I don't think I'm at an age that should matter. I still feel like I've got the testosterone there and all that stuff to keep mass in my legs. But the thing is, after that back surgery, it deteriorated a lot. So that's the reason I lost it. So I feel like if I don't get it back, then I'm going into that stage of life where when you get older, you lose that muscle mass. I feel like I'd be going into that too prematurely. I want to avoid that shit at all costs. Now I need to find some different exercises, but I don't even know what they would be because the weak link in there's always going to be knees. Cardio, you're running the whole time and it's just bouncing on your knees. You're on concrete or a treadmill, it's just boom, 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 constant repetitive motion on your knees. So I'm having to figure out different exercises, whatever that would be. I don't know, man. I need to take more time out to figure it out, which I just haven't. I'm just doing a bunch of shit all the time. But that's one reason why it's been so many days. And also, too, I was working out and at such frequency, I could tell I needed the rest too. So that was a factor as well. All right, go back into this second set of warm-ups here.
Start to make progress the right way, which is a huge deal because when you get in that mindset of constantly improving, when I got hurt, dude, that was the best I'd ever been. I'd never been in better shape than that, or mentally. And I had to watch it all go away, right? And now I'm in the process of building it back. And I think I'm not far off from where I was at this point. I would say within a few months. So that feels good. That's something I think that to answer your question, yeah, huge fucking test. Huge test. And I passed it because I didn't get way off track. I stayed within 5-10 pounds of my body weight, which I'm a naturally fat guy. Okay? So for me to not get up to 300 pounds and just be a lazy fuck during that process is a fucking huge victory for me, man. And it did solidify that old version of me is no longer there.
Yeah, sometimes we need to be tested in that way to realize how fucking good we actually are. Well, I was listening to your conversation with Tim Rover to prepare for this, and I was going through a brick wall when I listened to you guys talk, and he's telling you, dude, you are going to get the best. It's a guarantee.
I do feel like that's more of a
Michael Jordan
knee-saving exercise
that is
compared to barbell squats.
He'd be looking at you and telling you that for sure. It must have felt crazy.
Well, dude,
because it's a different range of motion. More of a in the groove with the machine. Feels more natural with my body. Versus keeping your back straight, and there's just so much going on in that movement with a barbell squat.
2011-12, that time frame, and
but if you notice, I'm putting my legs out, putting them closer, trying to figure out where the best range of motion is to save that knee. Mainly my right knee.
Suicidal type space, and I always felt out of place. I always felt
I had something else I wanted to say. I forgot though.
Saw things one way, and the rest of the world saw things another way, and so it made me feel very alone. And that's what gave me the suicide. I'm like, bro, there's something wrong with me. That was my thinking. My thinking was, because I'm so driven, because I'm so aggressive, because I speak my truth, because I'm a broken human, and everybody else is normal.
Maybe wall sits. Wall sits might be a good one
I'm not broken at all.
to throw in there. Wall sits and then sissy squats, just do kind of body weight stuff. That might be a really good place to start, really. Maybe I'm wanting to move into muscle building exercises too fast.
Because I realized that it was very scarce. And the reason I was
oh yeah, I remember what it was. basically most of the time whenever you have like something going on with a joint, usually you've got it working at like an unnatural angle. I read this in a book, but basically like your knees made to bend like at a 90-degree or 90-degree angle. Well, if you got it cocked and you're kind of working against its natural range of motion, like you're gonna put it in a bind and there'll be pain. So they talk about basically getting your body aligned to where you're actually moving in its natural range of motion. Now I know there's something up in my hip, or like it could be like tight hamstrings or tight quads or abductors. Like it could be something hip flexors. It could be something that's causing my leg to go out. So and cock my knee out to the side. What that would be, I don't exactly know, but it's somewhere in my, I'd say probably connected from where my back is to the knee area, somewhere in there, or whatever. Probably stretching would help. I mean, come up with all these suggestions all day, but just me finding the time to actually fucking do them. All right.
So he recognized me when we were at this growth conference. I was walking by and I fucking saw him out the corner of my arm. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I told Emily, I'm like, fucking Tim Grover, dude. Like right there.
Yeah,
dude,
I'm gonna put a belt on for this.
And I'm like, holy shit, Tim Grover knows who the fuck I am. Like, and dude, ever since then, like legit, we've just been like buddies, you know? Like we don't talk every day, but we don't have to talk every day. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go, he's like one of those guys who can go a year without talking to, which we don't. We talk every few months at least. But I mean, you go a whole year without talking to him and nothing's changed. Like he totally gets what he talks about in the book, the cleaner mindset. He gets people like that. Like he understands, like you get, a lot of people don't understand that about success-driven people, right? Like I have my head so down far into my own shit that people think I'm being rude or aloof or not wanting to hang out with them or this. No, dude, I'm just so focused on what I'm doing that I don't prioritize those things. It's not personal. If I were to do those things, I would love to hang out with them, you know, but like I'm not cutting the cloth. So Tim's been a very, very important person for me because he's the guy, you know, sort of like we were talking earlier, where I feel like I give a lot of people permission to be okay with who they are. He's the guy that did that for me. And that's something that is very near and dear for me.
Yeah, I read his books after you recommended them. It changed my life as well and was very pivotal. So we'll link those down below. But you had a part in there that you mentioned about how when you were doing the best, you felt the worst. And this happened to you multiple times. Pacific Rim, watching it reruns nonstop, you're getting money coming in nonstop. But you're doing the worst, actually. Why does that happen? Why does it happen when we do the best sometimes, we feel the worst?
I think it's because when we're experiencing the best results that we're experiencing, we're actually experiencing the results of actions that took place 30, 60, 90, 120 days ago. And now we're not doing those actions that got us the result. So the result's coming and we don't feel like we deserve it because we're not living to what we know to be the standard of how those things were produced. And then we realize like, oh fuck, I'm kind of a piece of shit, right? And then we start down the negative cycle. This is the important thing that we were talking about a moment ago. You can shorten that negative cycle, right? So like if you understand how much control you are, you understand that you can flip the switch from inside to, now you actually recognize, oh fuck, the reason I feel like shit is because I'm not living to the standard that I'm setting for myself on producing the results. I'm making lots of money. Right? The reason I'm making lots of money is because of the stuff I did last year or the year before when I was really working on it. And then because I started making a little money, I got a little lazy. And I started making more money. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then you start drinking, you know, the best drinks and eating the best food. And all of a sudden, you know, you think it's just your life. And in reality, you still have to go out and hunt and kill every single day to maintain that. And so I think that it comes down to what you were saying in the beginning of the show, living authentically in line with what you know to be the way or not. And I think that when, like, for example, the situation you brought up about the Pacific Rim, it's a story I tell on my show where I talk about one of the biggest revelations I had in business in my life. And I got pneumonia.
We go over here back to
making more money than I ever made. I thought
leg extension, move into those pretty quick here.
I wasn't rich. I just thought I was.
How much money did you have? Or
I was making 7 figures, but like it was.
Record this last max.
Rich, but like I'm really rich now. Okay, so like I'm just gonna say it the way it is. So that's the truth of the situation.
Yes.
I don't say that.
No.
Yes. So I realized during this time, because I was sick, I couldn't go to work. I missed 17 days of work, which I had never missed before. I could see my money coming in on my phone every day. I could see our sales. I could see them going up. I got paid on a weekly basis then. I could see my account going up, right? So if I'm home for 17 days, that's at least 2 pay periods where I get paid. So, but I'm fucking miserable, bro, because I'm sick, I'm full of shit. I'm sitting here watching this god-awful movie that I secretly love, like over and over again. And dude, it dawned on me. I'm like, fuck, man. This is why, and this is the thought I had. I'm like, this is why people kill themselves. That's what hit me like all at once. And I was like, fuck. And so like what I realized is that I had to remove the purpose. I had to adjust the purpose. I've had to do this a couple times over the course of my life. But I realized, okay, you're and by I don't live I live very much inside my head. So like I was living in a normal house, you know, I did have a Lamborghini at the time, I had a huge car now. I mean, bro, the Lamborghini cost more than a house. I was never but the point is that, you know, I started realizing I'm pretty good. And all these dudes at work and these girls at work, working who are not I feel like incredibly like guilty. So what it did was
that range of motion with the knee, that's never as important as on the leg extension here. If you got it cocked out, you're gonna feel that bind pretty heavily because it's so knee intensive. But it's one thing I've been working on is getting my legs square and in that natural range of motion that the knees want to travel in.
And this is the way the fucking cookie crumbles, and started taking responsibility and ownership.
Back in the day, I used to do bench press, my shoulders would be clicking, but I just power right through.
That goes on until this day.
The older you get,
I'm here every single
all of those injuries start to compound
and I think if you ask anybody
and put you out. Go for a month at a time or some bullshit.
Now there's some hard fucking.
And now I'm just more focused, not necessarily on weight, but getting the functionality and the focus on that muscle group that I'm actually looking to work. That's what's important. It's not about ego anymore. I proved to myself I can move weight if I want to. Now it's just about mastering my physique. Dietary, muscular, the fundamentals, rest, nutrition, stimulation, and finding the fine balance in between all that stuff. All right, I'm gonna drop weight one more time.
That these people have the opportunity to build
do a double leg.
Have a home, have kids, all these things. And I try my hardest to do that. You know, it's something that.
Do my double legs, and then I'm gonna move into a single leg movement.
Took that perspective and understood how much easier it would be to manage a company when they think of it like that versus just thinking about it for yourself. Because people can sense that, right? Like they know.
And most people get into that dog on the one set to failure workout. But you can only do so many exercises, 5 or 6 exercises, and push it into failure on each exercise so many times before you're just spent. And people who say that haven't tried it or given it the proper trial run to see if it actually works, which it does. If you think about it, the reason the one set max works is because you've only got to push it past your body's previous limitation one time in order to get an adaptive response, i.e. you build more muscle. And any more than that, you're just flooding your body's natural ability to cope with it, because you can't possibly create that amount of biochemical resources in order to accommodate that stress. You're actually just going to run yourself into the ground the more sets you do, unless you're going to give it a week or week and a half of rest in between workouts. So it's just not feasible in a longevity type of aspect with the volume training. All right, we're going to this second set here with a drop set.
Alright, so that's how I have to make this. So my job is essentially, I work with this alter ego version that has high standards, wants to win, wants to be the best at what he does. And I've got to figure out how to make that work. And so that's how I do it. And I know it sounds a little weird, but that shows us to make decisions for ourselves and not feeling guilty for making decisions. Because some of us have such big hearts that we will selflessly pour ourselves on the train tracks for people over and over and over again without realizing how bad it is for ourselves, right? So it's a way for us to get out of our self-martyrdom sometimes, but also hold people that are that you're friends with.
Alright.
I don't like this, but
Okay, I'm sure I shocked the system enough for that. We'll do the single legs, and we'll be done with squat or with the quads, and then I'll start doing the calf raises.
So, it's just a way for me to think about
Take some of this weight off here.
things in business and life.
How do you handle or think about having difficult conversations?
Not too often anymore. I mean, there are difficult situations. I mean, but very, very few times we run into someone who's unreasonable. So most people understand when hard conversations are happening, they feel it, it's energy, right? Like,
but how do you prepare for it?
Well, how do I prepare for that? I mean, I've just been doing it so long, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's just a whole shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any issue with confrontation because it's not personal. It's about the cause of the business or the mission, right? So I don't have an issue with confrontation, so I don't really prepare for it at all. I kind of just see what is, and then I communicate it.
Yeah.
And that's all I do.
Love that. That makes sense. Talking about visualization, and particularly Ulysses renting a house, and for 8 years straight, sending the owner of the house a message.
Yeah. So I live where Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th president of the United States, his hunting property was, okay? So he has a very famous estate.
You're gonna give it just a tad bit more rest.
Farm, the Anheuser-Busch family owns it.
So I can actually feel like I go to muscular failure on this.
A day's ride.
So I'm already pretty exhausted.
And
give it a little bit more rest here.
He would do his hunting and hang out and spend his recreational time. On this property, there's a oak tree that's 310 years old, older than the country. There's his stables where his horses were kept, which was built in 1820.
I kind of went off the split I was on. I think I'm gonna get back to it because I like it better.
Exact place where his house.
I just did it because I wanted to get different portions of it, of the quad and hamstring portions filmed here at my house. I typically do the hamstring portion. The second split or PM session is hamstrings. I usually do it at Planet Fitness because they got better equipment. And I just don't want to film there, so I've been trying to break it up onto a different day to where I can get it filmed. But I feel like I'm not making as much progress muscularly as I am if I just have one big leg day with a split instead of separate days splitting those up. And so I think I'm gonna get back to it. It's kind of thrown off my entire routine too.
It's really cool to live there.
So
I love living. But when I was growing
just
up,
kind of getting into a groove that you don't really have to think about. You're in a set schedule. Just allows you to make that steady mechanistic type of progress, and you don't even think about it. Like they're just ingrained habits at that point that are working you onto a certain point. All right, we'll go to this last set to failure. I start with my non-dominant side, which is my weak side. However many reps I can get with this side, then that'll be the limiting factor on the other side. Like even if I can do more reps with my dominant side, I'll stop and make sure the growth and symmetry stay even across both sides of the body.
Both of them I visualized growing up. So, but this particular house, this is really a crazy thing. So, when I was in high school, I'd see this house being built, and I would go up and I was nosing to see what they were doing. And I drove a Jeep back then, Jeep, no top, right? And I'd drive the Jeep up there and I'd see all the construction guys working, and they would come over and they would help you. And I was like, oh, thank you. They would do it all days. And then I would hey, you're in the way. It's fucking right? So
I got 20, 3 or 4 of them was assisted. Fuck.
Like a house I wanted to live in, I thought of that exact house.
I actually like that range of motion there too, because you can kind of help out, go past your max 3 or 4 with this, free hand you got. Whereas if you got both hands, it's just a weird, unnatural position with leverage.
So,
all right. So 20 was the rep range. I should probably go up next session, I guess, for this workout, and stay in between that 8 to probably 15 range is probably optimal. All right.
When I think about quitting, and I think about stopping, which was a lot, I would always think about that fucking house. And so like that particular house. And so when I got to be like in that 180 year, when I started to realize, holy shit, I might actually be able to do this, I looked up the records of the guy who owned the house, and I found him on Facebook. And I sent him a message, and I said something like that. I said, hey, do you live in? So I sent him this message, and I said, hey man,
oh shit.
I want to buy the house maybe. He's like, well, are you a broker? And I'm like, no, I just want to buy the house. And he's like, well, make an offer. And I'm like, well, I don't have the money right now, but I want to buy the house. If you ever decide to sell it, would you please contact me? And he, I'm sure he was like, yeah, whatever, right?
And I was talking about yesterday,
and then I said,
I feel like unless you have the baseline fundamentals of exercise, what causes growth, what doesn't, and until you're clear on those, like I don't believe that you can actually, you can't put logical things or illogical things into your mind and then get logical stuff out. So I feel like unless you got the proper fundamentals to work with and process from, like you're gonna go nowhere, right? But basically one of the concepts that I used to think a lot about was long distance runners versus like sprinters. And you always see sprinters, they've always got bigger legs, but they're doing a very brief and infrequent movement, but they're going as fast and as hard as they possibly can. Whereas the long distance runner, he's going for a lot of volume at very low intensity, and he's got really stringy legs. So that was something I always tried to take into consideration and implement and say, if that's true over here in this area, then it's probably true in the weight room too. And so the lower the volume, but more intensity should bring bigger muscles, bigger, stronger muscles, versus if I'm just doing a lot of endurance training, basically cardio with weights. So kind of all these concepts you can get clues from in other different sports and give you a pretty good conclusion on what type of training is going to produce the type of outcome that you're looking for.
So there's a meme that says,
all right, we're going to start supersetting calves and forearms here. I am just going to go with
this is the house that had affected me so.
I am just going to go with straight up seated calves. So I feel like it's going to kind of keep my quad more engaged angle, I guess. So we're going to go with that while they're still burning. We get this last max documented here. It's like I went up 2 reps.
Like the millions of houses on the internet, like I could have picked any house, dude. But when I thought about my life and I visualized like what it was going to be.
And another thing to think of too is like animals. In the animal world, like you see a 400-pound gorilla doing a 1-arm pull-up. Well, he ain't sitting there doing reps and multiple sets. He's doing it once, maybe twice, and then that's it. Like I think people really underestimate the amount of volume you've actually got to do to stimulate growth. Because if you're getting stronger, then you're by definition, the muscle it's got to get bigger. Because you have to ask yourself, like, if that's not true, if you don't have to get stronger to get bigger, then are you saying that you can get weaker and get stronger at the same time? Because if that was the case, then you could sit on the couch and eat Cheetos all day and then get the physique you want. No, there's got to be some sort of stimulation to make your body want to adapt. So, I mean, if you start looking at kind of the flip side of a lot of these concepts that are kind of bro science and prevalent in the gym, then you'll find most of them, if they don't align with the negative side or the opposite, then it doesn't actually make logical, applicable sense. And it's like, unless you have 2 points, then you can't ensure a straight line. So, you know, it's got to kind of coincide with multiple points in order to have enough corresponding data to actually warrant a justification as to why it is true versus why it isn't. Anybody can manipulate facts, but whenever you have multiple facts in a row that support your integrated, like all of your thoughts are all integrated and they're all congruent, that's where it's at right there. It's now logical and therefore applicable.
You know, this is really cheesy, but I'll fucking admit to it. And so I started making up this little routine in my brain. I would close my eyes at night and I would start to visualize this exact scenario. I would visualize myself. And by the way, now remember this, I'm 27 years old. I'm having to move back in with my dad because my business was struggling. I couldn't afford to live on my own. So I just picked the biggest dream that I could think of for me. The biggest dream at that time that I could think of for me was owning a Lamborghini and flying a fighter. All right? So, and then I had never done either of those things. All right? And nobody I fucking knew owned a Lamborghini. I didn't know anybody that owned a Lamborghini. I didn't know anybody that flew private. I fucking didn't even, it was like a trillion miles.
And another idiotic.
Because I'm like, I always love Lamborghinis. And
now I'd say a piece of bro sciences out there. Well, you need to eat, maybe if you don't have a six-pack, then you've got a slow metabolism. And if you've got a slow metabolism, then maybe you just need to eat more food, and that will kick your metabolism into gear and make it faster. Well, that's as dumb as a statement as it sounds like, because all you're going to do is go past your maintenance need of calories, and there's going to be fat deposition. Like, that's what I was saying. If you don't have logical things in your mind to begin with, then it's impossible to come to a logical conclusion. And it's not about fats, high carb diets, high protein diets. It doesn't matter, okay? If you go past your maintenance range of calories, there's going to be excess and then fat deposition. So, to eat more, to kick your metabolism into gear is oxymoronic. If you know, it actually boils down to just calorie intake. And so if that statement were true, let's go to the flip side again, right? Okay, well then that would mean if I want to lose weight by eating a large amount of calories, then would that mean that to put on weight, I have to decrease my calories and eat less? See, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's all about the caloric intake, whether it's above so that you're gaining weight or it's below to where you're losing weight. And it doesn't matter if that's fats, carbs, or protein. It doesn't matter. If it's above, you're still going to gain weight, no matter how that balance of macronutrients is, or if it's below, then you're going to lose weight. And it could be predominant fats or predominant carbs or predominant proteins. As long as it's below or under, you're going to lose or gain, right? Now, you want to stay where it's a equal balance, so you get the proper macronutrients, vitamins, and minerals. You want to stay well balanced, so you don't want to get out of whack on too many of those carbs versus protein and fat ratio, just to stay healthy and give your body what it needs. But it all boils down to just finding your maintenance range of calories, where you start off, and finding that to know whether and when you want to gain weight to add calories, and when you want to lose it, just decrease them. So that's like nipping in the ass, one of those bro science things that probably most of us have probably heard. We're going to start supersetting forearms here. I know I'm talking a little bit more, but I got this stuff on my mind I want to get on film. So this is what it is.
Or what you believe they shouldn't be. You have to say, this is what it is. And from all accounts, in my observation, this is a real thing that exists. So you have to accept that it's reality first off, and then you have to start practicing. So pick a dream, then it's the biggest fucking dream that makes no sense, it doesn't have to, and then dedicate that time to just seeing yourself living that dream, and don't allow yourself to get off track of the how I'm going to get to that point. This is where a lot of people get confused. They start to visualize this.
And I'll tell you what.
They allow themselves to get into the how I'm going to get there. That's not the point of this.
The main person who straightened all this stuff out for me was a guy by the name of Mike Mincer.
So that would be my advice.
And his mentor was Arthur Jones. He came up with the Nautilus machines. And then he was kind of taught Mike. And Mike gleaned a lot of knowledge off of Arthur there. And then Dorian Yates come along, Mike Mincer's theories, and then he put them into practice too. So really those three guys I've gotten a lot of knowledge from that really sorted out my thinking as far as like exercise and bodybuilding go. And since I've had accurate data and accurate information to work from, like dude, I've actually started seeing progress consistently. And really it's once I get away from fundamentals whenever my progress slows down. And so it's just revert. But anyways, basically what I'm saying is like if you go look them up, dude, they're like super logical and break down a lot of this bullshit conception stuff that you have in the gym floating around.
That's your quote. Yeah. But it's like and the reason why
I hate to get political, but I'll tell you what, whenever you know what macronutrients work for your body, what proportions to have them in, you know what kind of exercise is the best, then
well, I think we have to recognize
corporations can't sell you shit. You don't need the new fad diet, you know what works. So it's really like capitalism, I think, is the best system to get people out of poverty. But I'm saying there's a part where it can really only thrive on confused people. If you don't realize what kind of diet works the best, then you'll be quick to take their word for it that the keto diet's the thing now. Oh, and then it's a low carb diet. And then it's a carnivore diet. And if you don't know and you're a confused person, you're easier to take money from because they got the answer. And it really is about keeping you confused. Actually, I think that's one of the chapters in Mike Mincer's book is bodybuilders are confused. And more times than not, they are, just as I was for years. And I thought I needed the protein powder. And I thought that was going to be the thing that did it. And, oh, maybe if I try steroids, maybe if I, oh, then it's creatine this time. Oh, doing more cardio, maybe it's this diet. Just confused as shit.
And this is the system. And a lot of people don't like to admit this, but it's the truth. We live in a system where we are promised freedom and autonomy and free will, where we are highly controlled and manipulated at all times. And so our education system cannot be looked at in its current state as an education system. We have to look at it for what it is, which is a impacting system of all human potential, so that when people graduate, the next step is go into college, get yourself into $100,000 worth of debt that you cannot get out of, because we're not going to teach you the skills in college to actually get out of it. And so the problem,
whenever the populace is more confused in finance, more confused in
a society. So that's
just every area and sector in the entire market that the market is made up of, then there's these gatekeepers that stand in between you and the information you need that's going to get you the results. And you can only get that information if you got money. And they stand there. So basically the entire system thrives off of ignorance. And the thing that is wrong with that is it eventually gets to the point where it's actually the incentive of the corporations to dumb you down as dumb as they possibly can, so then they can dictate terms to you. And if you can't interpret reality based on what you see with your eyes and come up with logical conclusions by yourself, then basically they're the ones that get to interpret reality for you. And that's where the power's at. They say knowledge is power. Well, that's why it's power. You know what I mean? What would a illiterate man look like in an illiterate society? Well, he's gonna look like a freak, dude. You know? And
dollars in their education system, that doesn't make any sense unless we're working.
but technically, he'll be the one that probably rises to, not probably, if he doesn't get fucking stoned to death by the mob for being such a freak, he'll probably be the one to rise to power. And keeping people in ignorance is the best way to keep a stranglehold over them. And I'm starting to float off into, I'm not going to call it conspiracy because that's what's going on, but just into topics that aren't necessarily bodybuilding science and stuff. But this is actually a lot of the stuff that's on my mind.
Successfully, we teach other entrepreneurs in that group, you know, and we charge $400 a month. That's about what it is. But what they get is they get a roadmap to build their company and their life and their business. And so if you look at the cost of that versus the cost of college education, what you learn, it's a no-brainer, right? But we're also not taught to value education properly, which is, you know, indoctrinated over the course of time. How patient, right? Like, dude, when I became an entrepreneur, dude, it was not cool to be an entrepreneur. It was like you were a loser that couldn't cut it in college. All right, so the perspective has changed quite a bit. But until we recognize that we have more free information taught by real people via podcasts, YouTube,
but really, if you don't like what's going on in the world right now, you don't like where our government's leading us, you don't like that they're demasculating men, you don't like that they're trying to dumb us all down, you don't like that they're taxing us like fucking slaves, you don't like that corporations are pushing a crazy agenda, and even in our school systems, if you don't like that, well, the opposite, becoming strong individual, learning how to eat right, and taking care of your vessel, instead of being a hyper consumer of food, which in turn gives you diabetic and negative health effects, which is going to kick you into the healthcare system, which is going to feed you into the pills and the prescriptions. Like I'm telling you, the opposite of that is you take control of your own mind. You educate yourself. You put healthy stuff in you. You exercise your body. You learn some combat skills. You take control of your own vessel. I'm telling you, that right there is the rebellion, dude. Becoming and having dominion over your own self and not leaving everything up to chance and leaving yourself up to be a victim of the system that's been created to suck you in just as a way to extract from you. You know, when men are strong, society is strong. And nobody's going to do it for you. It's going to have to be something you take a conscious effort and actually start building yourself up in these vital areas so you can actually step into being the man you're supposed to be one day, rather than an obese, fat turd walking around that couldn't do anything at the spur of the moment if something popped off. Like,
we don't value others' wisdom as much.
Well, I think we're seeing it. You know, I think we're seeing it in the world. I think we're seeing a world where we have fake kindness. You know, there's a lot of people that pretend to be kind on the internet that don't live that way in real life. You know, we have people that walk up and down the street giving out money and posting it for likes and shares and clicks and clout, right? Like, these aren't the real things that the world needs. The world needs you to actually get involved. The world needs you to actually solve problems. And I think what we're seeing, because of the quickness, some of the social media opportunities and those things like that.
I know I got a little bit off topic, but this stuff's important stuff, man. This is the state of our country, and it's all about what kind of world we want our kids to inherit. And if we want them to inherit a free and prosperous type of society, guess what? We're going to have to lead by example. We're going to have to be the people that they're seeing doing it. Not telling them to do it and then us doing something different, because they're not going to do that. Kids don't do what we tell them to do. They do what they see us do. So we've got to be leading by example in all of these areas that we're expecting from them. And if we can do that, then we can get our nation back on track, because it's the individual. It's strengthening the individual that strengthens the whole. Okay? You can't strengthen the whole if you've got a bunch of weak links.
What are the principles?
So, I'll leave it with this statement here. And the statement is, if every man sweeps his porch clean, then the whole world is left clean, right?
People think, oh, it's AI.
Okay, so
It actually doesn't.
that was,
Fundamental fucking reality.
I know I went a little bit longer with the conversation, but I wanted to, you know, get it out while it was there and get it on film. That being said, this was,
it's going to ruin and actually usher in.
This was day 25 of 75 hard. This is the PM workout. Still got a 45-minute workout to do outside. Read the book. I've already done that. Take a progress pic. I'm about to do that. And then it's basically follow a diet, don't drink any alcohol, and drink a gallon of water for the rest of the day. Really appreciate you guys who are following along. I'm basically just putting all these videos out here as basically just kind of a diary of my life, because I'm going to be successful one day and I want to document my process as it gets up to that point. The good, the bad, the ugly. And most people don't actually see what it takes to become successful. They just see that successful person and think he was lucky. Well, actually, there's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes for years that you didn't see. And I think it's important to see that process right there, the ascent. Because it's not just a straight hockey stick. It's going to be ups and downs, way down, sometimes way up and then way down. Like, it's going to be a really jagged road. But if the mountain was smooth, you'd never be able to climb it. Yeah, I had that tidbit of wisdom. But anyways, all right, dude, I appreciate you guys following along. Please share, like, and subscribe if you like the content, the way I break down the workouts and all that stuff. So, all right, man, we'll see you tomorrow. I think I'm going to do chest, and I may fucking not. Who knows? Depends on what I'm feeling like tomorrow. But, all right, I really appreciate you guys.